Columbia University had a celiac and gluten sensitivity conference, and at this conference they were talking about this epidemic of gluten sensitivity and how it's expanding so much and we don't know why, and so I asked
Right.
at the microphone, well, is something happening on the farm that may be contributing to this? And no one knew. Then someone from General Mills who was there to describe how hard it is to find gluten-free oats and make them into gluten-free Cheerios, he
Right.
came and he found me and he said, well, Roundup, glyphosate, is being sprayed on the grains right before harvest.
Longevity isn't luck. It's a lifestyle built on awareness, habits, culture, and intention. Welcome to Age with Intention podcast, where we explore how people around the world live longer, stronger, think clearer, and age with purpose. Today's episode is about one of the biggest hidden conversations impacting modern health: environmental toxins, industrial agricultural pesticide exposure, and the growing battle over glyphosate. Now, our guest today is Kelly Ryerson, also known as the Glyphosate Girl, one of the leading voices speaking out about pesticides exposure, environmental health, and corporate accountability inside the MAHA movement. But today's conversation goes beyond just one chemical. We're talking about the future of American food systems, a corporate influence over public health, the fight over pesticide liability protections, and the role of grassroots activism. Okay? And whether change happens from the top down or from the communities rising up from the bottoms up, because while legislature matters, I also believe real change starts when families, neighborhoods, and communities stop outsourcing responsibility for their health. So, Kelly,
Hi.
welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy
Thanks
to
for
be here.
joining us. I know you're very busy. You're out there fighting the great fight, as we call it, right?
Trying
so happy
to.
to have you here. One of the things that I have to confess, okay, it's first I'm going to say congratulations on the recent win that you had, right? It was I
Thank
saw
you,
the whole
yes.
thing, and I honestly was surprised because I've been down. I have to confess that I was one of the critics of the movement because I've just lost so much trust in the system, in our politicians. And I didn't think you guys could do or make a difference or, make even a little dent. So I was one of the critics saying, I don't know. So I'm happy that I was proven wrong. I have to say right from the start. And you're doing work that's above and beyond, obviously. So I'm always happy to be wrong. So that's my confession for you there.
That's so
But anyhow,
funny.
everybody knows you as the Glyphosate Girl, so we're going to jump right into it. How did you get started with this movement? What a beautiful name, the Glyphosate Girl. What pulled you into this fight?
Yeah, I now over 10 years ago was dealing with chronic illness, so autoimmune-like condition that was really hard to diagnose and actually never even really fully had a diagnosis. And after seeing innumerable doctors, I think it was like 18 different specialists for all the different symptoms that I had throughout my body, I was basically told that it was psychological, and I was layered on 2 antidepressants and a benzodiazepine and steroids and gabapentin, and I was this walking pharmacy that was absolutely, with once again
Wow.
no diagnosis. And this was at Stanford and UCSF, so we're talking about like major players in medicine.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I finally was like, well, maybe I am crazy because this is all I'm hearing. I went to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist had intake blood work that happened to test my vitamin levels, and I was a third world person, severely malnourished, severely. I had scurvy. I had basically rickets because I had 0 vitamin D. I had a B12 underneath 50, like so terrible. I brought these results back to my GP, who was Stanford and Harvard trained, and she said, oh, vitamins are really overstated. It couldn't be that.
Wow, you were completely depleted.
Completely depleted. So I found a new doctor. That new doctor I built myself back up. She said, I think you should give up gluten because a lot of people have some success with that. And I said, great, I'll do that. Ended up going to Columbia University, had a celiac and gluten sensitivity conference, and at this conference they were talking about this epidemic of gluten sensitivity and how it's expanding so much and we don't know why, and so I asked
Right.
at the microphone, well, is something happening on the farm that may be contributing to this, and no one knew. Then someone from General Mills who was there to describe how hard it is to find gluten-free oats and make them into gluten-free Cheerios. He
Right.
came and he found me and he said, well, Roundup, glyphosate, is being sprayed on the grains right before harvest. And so something is happening on the fields. And so that led me down this rabbit hole of craziness. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much wrong with this chemical. This is everywhere. 18, the glyphosate cancer trials were beginning in San Francisco, which is where I lived at the time. And so I decided I would go up to the courthouse where it was taking place. And I went to the courthouse and assumed that there'd be some rallying or something of that kind, because this was the first time that Monsanto, who manufactured Roundup, was going in front of a jury. It just had never happened before. And so I went there. I expected a crowd. There was no crowd. I went in, sat right next to RFK Jr., who's the litigator who was suing Monsanto, and started the blog Glyphosate Girl, where I was talking about what was happening in the courtroom. And so that's where it all began.
So that was 2018.
Yeah. Yes.
And this is when you realize, okay, it's not just about agriculture. This is going to be about public health for sure, and at a national scale.
Totally.
You started in California. Wow. Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's starting there. And the scientists at the time, of course, there was a wide body of science already showing how harmful glyphosate was, but those scientists had been shamed and dismissed and all this, and saying that they were exaggerating, and actually glyphosate is fine. It's safer than table salt. I mean, all these kinds of narratives that just so recently were predominating.
And what shocked you the most, as far as, when you started doing the research on glyphosate and the pesticide exposure, what was the most shocking?
I think the most shocking and saddest part of the whole thing was just how complicit our government was in continuing to allow this toxic chemical into our bodies. And it's something that, goes into when you're pregnant, it goes into down the umbilical cord. I mean, this is something that's infiltrated our whole world. And seeing how quickly and cheaply our government is willing to sell out our health for their personal benefit just made me disgusted.
Yeah, I mean, it exposes their integrity. That's what I was telling you. I had such a bad taste. I still do.
I do
On
too.
our government. That it's like, oh my God, it's just like, how much are you worth, buddy? Come on, I recently saw one of the guys that you put up. I forgot his name, but we can mention him since we're going to expose names. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm going to use in the backyard. My wife's going to use. I'm like,
what's wrong with you? Are you insane?
Yeah, but I kind of felt it. I feel energies, and I kind of felt he was playing. He was just playing the part.
Oh, yeah,
He's
I think
obviously
so. And I
getting-
later found out, so this guy is Rep. Austin Scott from Georgia. He is an enormous defender of pesticides. We recently were at a committee meeting in D.C., and he proudly boasted about how much he loves pesticides and how he uses them all around his land. And I mean, it was disgusting. And after that, I had taken a picture during the meeting, and he stopped me and said, and sorry I couldn't smile for your pretty picture.
Okay. Yeah, he looked angry all the way through.
So angry. And I'm just like, what is this worth to you? And, how awful is it? Okay, you can go poison yourself on your property, but what are you doing to your kids and everything else that's around there? It's sick. I mean, he may not even be spraying it. That's the crazy part. He may
I
just be
just don't
saying
think
it.
he is. Yeah, I don't think he is. I think he's just saying it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what's happening with the environment? One thing that deeply concerns me now is I love national forests. I love going out hiking. And then I hear now that I'm realizing there's heavily, spraying chemicals out in not just our farms now American forests, the parks. What's going? No wonder our animals are, wild animals are dropping dead.
Oh my gosh. This recent thing, there was a recent expose done by Mother Jones, which is excellent journalism. I think it should win an award. It probably will, on how much the glyphosate and other pesticides, but glyphosate specifically, is being dumped in our national forests. And this is happening in our national parks as well, and wildlife refuges. Like, it's disgusting. It's something that's not well exposed. And what's wild is that, so the EPA still continues to say that glyphosate doesn't cause cancer, even though the overwhelming evidence shows it causes cancer. So they're just doubling down on this. So a few years ago, there was a biological evaluation, which the EPA is supposed to do for all these pesticides to see what impact it has on wildlife. So they did this, and they came back, and their biological evaluation said that 93% of endangered species will be injured or killed by the continued use of glyphosate. And they proved just how much it ruins their habitats and all this stuff. And so that should have been enough to cancel the registration of glyphosate.
Right.
Of course, it wasn't. Everyone ignored it. So now you think about, okay, so now in the Lake Tahoe area in California, they're talking about this. They've scheduled this massive spray with the lie that this is going to help forest fires when really it's adding to the kindling. And what they plan to do is, so the conifers are the cash crop of the forest, because you can lumber, it translates to lumber. So the timber industry is very interested in killing off everything in the forest except for the cash crop conifers. So what they do is they go in and they spray and they kill all competing vegetation, like all the ecology that really keeps the forest healthy is killed by the chemicals so that just the conifer grows. And then we wonder, well, how come we're having these forest fires ripping through the monocrops where there's no balance whatsoever? And it's not surprising, but their big idea now to restore the forest is this summer and in the coming years be dumping a bunch of glyphosate to make sure that they can go in and plant their conifer trees. So this is madness. Wow. And that glyphosate doesn't just disappear. It follows wherever the water goes. It's a water-loving compound. And so I'm talking streams eventually into the lake. I mean, it is catastrophic.
No, I just think of, one of the reasons we go out there, like you're saying, Lake Tahoe, we have the beautiful mountains out there in California by Whitney. So all that, you think you're going out, getting away from pollution, getting away from all these pesticides, yet you're going right into the the soil quality is going to be gone, the waterways, all the nice, beautiful rivers we have there.
Yeah.
The biodiversity. I just can't believe that we're letting them do this, though, because.
Oh, my gosh. Well, and there's a group we're starting to organize now. The problem is, this is the problem. So the people in Tahoe are saying, well, the USDA owns the Forest Service. So this is the USDA is federal. It owns the Forest Service, or it oversees it. And the Forest Service says that it's fine. And so you start going back. So you're like, okay, so we have to talk to the Forest Service federally to get something done. Then you go and you realize, oh, the USDA is run by Brooke Rollins, who has proven now repeatedly to be completely owned by the pesticide manufacturers. So this is going to be a huge sale to the chemical manufacturers to be dumping this much in our. So will she be willing to say, oh, no, let's spare the national forest? Of course not. So it's going to take just such massive, massive pressure, and it's just disgusting. And back to your point about how you've lost faith in the government doing anything about this, it is so frustrating. And I think what's frustrating is that we had someone, maybe not all of your listeners were supportive of RFK Jr. Of course, I go way back with him, understanding how much he cares about pesticides. And so that for me was enough to follow him. He was immediately stripped of the ability basically to do anything about pesticides. They put him in HHS. He's not in EPA or USDA or anything that really would impact it. And so it's very hard to watch all the corruption happening around him and knowing that there's nothing that we can do. My hope is that maybe for the first time in 2028, these issues might actually make it to a presidential debate stage, because I actually personally don't care who does it. Someone needs to take care of this chemical issue that's killing us all. And it can be Democrats, it can be Republicans, it can be whoever, but someone really needs to address it for exactly this reason.
Yes, because, I've been following, RFK Jr. for a long time too, before he even got in, as an attorney. He was really working hard. And as soon as he joined, he's in the back, he's in the background, and you could tell his face when things go through.
Yeah, you can.
I'm like, this guy, and I'm like, I don't blame him for anything, because I'm like, his hands are tight.
They're totally tight.
They don't do so much. They put you in a spot where you're not part of it. Like you said, EPA, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't run that. He doesn't run the other, because I see a lot of comments, people saying, oh, RFK Jr., why aren't you doing anything about this? Well, that's not his field.
It's not his field, and he's taking the brunt of all the criticism. And I'm like, damn.
On everything. Yeah, and one of the big statistics, because I'm from California, obviously, one of the statistics that really stopped me in my tracks, and it involves Santa Cruz County. And you said you were in Northern California yourself, right?
Yeah, San Mateo.
These companies with the berries.
Oh my God, the Driscolls.
How much proof do you need? These children that are, dying off. This is cancer. We have, what are the stats? Like 100,000 children. 38% higher than the state average. I think it's Pajaro Valley.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that area. I'm in Southern California, but I know Like these are, these are facts that we're facing, and it's going. They're spraying around the schools, and I've known this from Oxford too. I mean, Oxnard, right over here in Southern California. Same thing. If you look at stats, you're going to see the cancer rates really high up there as well. And they're just spraying so much. And I forgot there's two heavy pesticide chemicals. I'm not familiar with the names, but I know they're like one of the strongest. They used them in Vietnam as a
Yeah.
chemical weapon.
Yep.
And we're using it
2,4-D.
on the people here. Let's just keep going, and let's just produce a bunch of strawberries. Now, of course, it gets to everybody because we do mass produce and send all over the United States strawberries, berries, and it's one of the things I want to do is just maybe start small community programs where people are aware. They're not aware. I'm speaking of the Latin American community, where obviously in California there's many of us. People are busy. They work, parents, two jobs, like each kids are doing their thing. And even some of the teenagers, they're already working. So people are too busy to even realize they're bringing these poisons into their homes, and then they get sick, and then they start scrambling what happened. And so my thing is to bring that awareness. That's why I'm happy to have you here, because this is like, it's not just our animals, our soil, this and that, but it's humans, real people with children suffering, crying, wondering what went wrong.
Oh, it's just that what's happening in those communities, it is so heartbreaking. The number of deformities, different diseases that are coming out in the kids in those communities is so disgusting. And you have really an issue too, where if they're undocumented workers, they don't have any rights to be speaking up about it.
Right.
They're scared to be found out, and a lot of times they'll go back
That's another
to
thing.
Mexico to get treatment because they can't get treatment here. And you think about how disgusting that whole thing is. So they come to the United States, they have no rights. They work on our behalf among the families, and then have to go back to Mexico to get treatment and potentially die. I mean, I don't understand a food system that supports that type of thing, especially when it comes to the kids. And it's disappointing to me because I think California should be more on the front lines of that and getting rid of some of these toxic chemicals that are unnecessary just to benefit Driscolls. I mean, we actually don't need strawberries year round. That's not a natural thing.
No,
So
exactly.
if it doesn't grow then don't be using things to try and make it so. Like it shouldn't be. There's been enough public pressure on Driscolls in the past that you would think by now maybe they would make a point of showing how it can be done without poisoning everything that we love. But yeah, you're right. The human health component of it. I have a lot of friends from the Salinas Valley that are my age, and not one of them doesn't have cancer. I mean, they all have
Wow.
cancer because they were so exposed just with the aerial spraying growing up there. So, I mean, it's a really enormous problem that I wish we had more people taken seriously.
Yes, yes, and that's what I'm saying. I think we talk about at the top where you're at, right? Holding these companies liable, but it's not just like I'm saying. It's not just Monsanto or Bayer. It's companies like Driscoll's. We need to be aware. Why can't we stop purchasing them from like Costco, even Sprouts over here? Sprouts, market. It's supposed to be a clean farmers market. They have them. It's like why do you guys carry these? I mean, don't you
Yeah.
see what they're doing to the community? So
Right?
this is it's just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And another thing that Driscoll's does that really annoys a lot of the organic people is their organic berries are hydroponic, so they're grown in plastic. You think that you're getting these,
Yeah.
you don't visualize that when you're buying those berries.
Right. Yeah. No, organic. Right away it says organic. Said, be careful, people. These are not the actual organic, the way they're meant to be. And then another thing you bring up, we need to educate people on seasonal growing foods. Like we know strawberries are not grown in the winter, but yet we have them there. This is one of the things I teach is, not just regional, like you eat from what you have in your latitude, for example, and in season. So we work on that a lot with at least my audience, so that we can stay in touch with nature and not be eating a mango in the winter.
Right?
So it's like those aren't supposed to be around at this time of the year. Why do you guys? And that's one of the things we could stop, because then now all of a sudden they're not selling them in the winter, and now it starts disrupting their system
Yeah, it
in
does.
a
It
way.
disrupts their system. Yeah, I love the thought of eating seasonally because that's biologically what we were meant to do, right?
Yes, definitely, definitely. So now, do you believe this is becoming a fracture point, or is it strengthening the MAHA movement, which you're a part of with the Food Babe as well,
Yep.
right? I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but what's the name of that? He's so great. He's he's all about the vaccines. He has a show. What's his name? He's
Oh, Del
very
Bigtree?
yes.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
He's
Love
awesome.
Del. Um,
Yeah.
well, so it's an interesting point in time. So it's a mixed bag because obviously the things that we were hoping were going to happen haven't happened really in this administration. But what I will say is that, so how long have I, I've been working over a decade now on glyphosate. When Donald Trump came out and he, I mean, this was such a ridiculous day, okay? When there was an executive order that basically called in national defense to protect glyphosate under national defense, that we needed it so badly and we're going to mine it here in the United States. And I mean, it was so ridiculous on many fronts, especially because there was no need to have an executive order on it. It could have just been something that quietly was done, but clearly it was a signaling to the pesticide industry, we have your back. Um,
Right.
so
Makes
anyway,
sense.
when that happened, so I started charting what in mainstream media, like how much glyphosate is mentioned. It went from never, because the pesticide companies are advertisers, right, in all mainstream media. And so they're pretty captured themselves. They're not going to be complaining about glyphosate a whole lot. Oh my gosh, when Donald Trump did that, it was through the roof. People talking about glyphosate and the carcinogenicity and pesticide issues and all over the media. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is this what it took, right, to finally get it to be of national discussion? And so at the end of this like MAHA time, or when Donald Trump is out of office, I think that the measurement is, okay, so how many more voters are aware of this issue so that we can start prioritizing it. So it's been an amazing advertisement for this issue, but certainly has fallen far short up till now of what we would have hoped would have happened. I mean, by now I was hoping desiccation would be gone. I thought there'd be lots of investment in regenerative agriculture. Basically, all these things that Kennedy ran on his independent campaign that Donald Trump actually did stand on a stage and say, oh, we should do something about pesticides. I mean, he said that. And now we're in this situation where that's not the case. So, I mean, it's sort of like it always happens no matter who's in charge. It seems like they make promises, of
Yeah.
course, and then that's that. So now it's like, okay, so then what's the next iteration we're talking about? If it's not MAHA, what is it? And we had this big rally a couple of weeks ago, and it was really great because it was everyone from across the spectrum that took part. Where, so for those who don't know, the Supreme Court right now is deciding whether or not effectively pesticide manufacturers should be able to be sued when they don't warn us that something can cause harm. Okay, so like this is crazy. So that means that if the Supreme Court rules with Bayer that when we get sick from exposure to 47,000 different pesticide products, we will not be able to sue them anymore when we get sick. So this is
Sounds
nuts,
familiar.
right? This is it's exactly the vaccine playbook.
1986.
100%. And they're doing it with pesticides now. And this administration willingly told the Supreme Court, yeah, go for it. We think you should side with Bayer. So this is crazy. And we had an enormous rally called People versus Poison a couple of weeks ago. I did it with Vonnie and Dell and some others. And we went in front of the Supreme Court and we were loud. And a lot of media was there, which was fantastic. And but and we're talking with all these various groups, so Beyond Pesticides, Center for Biological Diversity, Friends of the Earth, and then MAHA's there too. And it's like, okay, so we all still work together as we have for years. I mean, there was been, recently more separation, but we're all still friends. We're all after the same purpose. So how do we keep on elevating and pushing this? What's it called? Like, who's involved? What's the next iteration? Because there is momentum.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a way to kind of break off the bad taste on that Trump left, and I'm saying it from the MAHA movement because he really disappointed a lot of people. I thought he was going to really lean more on RFK Jr. It turns out, obviously, didn't happen, and there's a lot of reasons we know why. They're just too strong. They're very powerful.
So powerful.
And they own our politicians, and we already know we've been compromised, and our health is super important. So we need to keep fighting. Come together, like you said. Maybe it's going to become because I've seen Democrats on your side too.
Oh yeah.
That very anti-Trump, but
Yeah.
you guys are coming together because it becomes something about humanity. It's not politics. So
That's really true.
when I talk to people and they say, "You're with the MAHA movement, Art, or you believe it, or you still," or they laugh now. Oh, do you still believe in the MAHA? Well, it's not the MAHA movement that ruined it, man. It's just people got together with this movement, and they disappointed them. Look what they did to us. The disappointment they did to us. No wars, and here we are with wars. So,
Totally. Can you believe it? It's just like across the board.
yeah, we've all been bamboozled. We've all been played like a fiddle. You
Yeah.
tell me, all of us have been played. So don't let's not focus our energy on they didn't work out, whatever. No, because this is going to continue. And one of the places where I defer, at least philosophically, with the movements, like the bigger movements, I don't believe we can start really taking down the system around the institution, relying on the institutions, or I want to say politicians, really. I believe communities need to be organized. I believe families need to be educated. I believe local regenerative farms
Yeah.
need to be supported, not just the big ones. And I love that movie, by the way, that documentary called Common.
Oh yeah, Common Ground.
Yeah,
I love
really
that.
good.
Yeah.
There's little things that are missing there, but I love it. And then we need to go and start some kind of boycott. I don't know, economic boycott that's from our pockets. I think that becomes very powerful. That's the resistance we need, because if consumers don't stop supporting toxic systems, then industries eventually, they're gonna continue. Or if they stop, we all stop, then they're gonna feel it.
That's
And we haven't
exactly
done that.
it.
The perspective of grassroots action versus federal policy reform, I think they're both important.
I think that
First,
they
I
are
would
too.
say grassroots only, but now I see you guys, and I'm like, no, we need both. We need both, so we need to come together. Can local communities realistically create national pressure? I think so, one community at a time, and then like we do with holistic health, we come together. They call it the collective, right? And it's very strong. I don't know if the holistic health movement is very strong. It's a collective, but it's not a organization that's fighting in the, I guess, in the political, national level. We're just more on kind of like bringing down the sympathetic craze and becoming more parasympathetic. Doing it from home, more sovereign. But this movement, if we bring them both together, I think we could see radical, like local activism, like town hall meetings going crazy. Like you said, you went to one, it was crickets, but it starts with the education, community wise, regenerative. I live here in Laguna Beach, right? Not everybody, as you know, these little homes, we're all in these little properties, but there's a community garden where we could all get a little section and start our produce, whatever, and everybody shares, from oranges to cabbage, whatever you want to say. And then there's this movement that is electroculture, which is awesome. And I actually planted some of the copper with, I'm learning, and we'll see how big our tomatoes grow.
That's
But
cool.
I've seen it. I have the book on electroculture. I got it from Matt, the guy from his company name is Cultivating Elevating. That's Matt from Cultivate Elevate. So he's been teaching me that, and it's amazing. Electroculture, community gardens. We could do it, and then we stop supporting these guys.
Totally. Just get off it. I recently, I am a co-executive director of this group, American Regeneration. We have these incredible regenerative farmers that are advisors, and we have these periodic meetings. And basically, my update was like, okay, so we keep on building a parallel system, because we'd hope
Yeah.
that there'd be more. And there's not, but it's like, well, we were already building it, right? It's slow, but we're building it, and we're building this alternative medical system and all of that because it has to be done. And one thing I will say that is a really exciting change, I think, in the movement is that, and this happened in like 2021, where I had a bunch of my followers were, I mean, typical, like mostly Southern California, probably, and some New York people that were just health focused people. And then in 2021, suddenly my following started flipping to being highly conservative. So lots of people from red states and a lot of very Christian people and suddenly following me and wanting to know more about the toxicity of the food supply. And I think that is something that everyone's been waiting for, to have really a very strong bipartisan fight. And the constituents overwhelmingly in these red states, there are polls that show it, are done with the pesticides and done with toxic exposures. And a lot of it, I mean, my family is from North Carolina, very rural North Carolina. My mother-in-law and father-in-law both died way too early from pesticide exposure, one from an ALS like neurological disease and then the other from cancer. And this happens throughout that community. Well, their well water that they're all dependent on is completely contaminated.
Yeah.
And they aren't doing anything about it because they just say, well, that's just the way it is. And sadly, a lot of people normalize this kind of illness because they're just like, well, that's what happens in our community. It's just our whole community. We die of cancer. And so that mentality, it needs to shift. And it's so wonderful during this administration where I've gotten to know a lot of very Republican people, especially younger people, who are just done with it. And I'm like, fantastic. So once again, going back to this, can we all unify around this issue? I really feel like we can. And that's why the Farm Bill went the way that it did recently, where we had an enormous win around pesticides, because we have enough now conservative constituents that are making the phone calls to their representatives. And that is a game changer.
Yes, I believe so. So if we could all stop looking at red and blue and just going to vote for the representatives that actually support the people, then it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. We're going for you because you really care for us.
Yes.
So that's why that's another thing. The community, they have to be aware. They have to be educated to where, okay, this guy supports these policies and this one doesn't. I don't care. What are you? I don't want to even hear
that
you're a Democrat.
It.
Right.
Yeah.
Just want to know what you support. So for listeners who want to get involved, where can they start? Because I know you have a lot of information on, how to stay informed, track the legislation, learn which representative supports or opposes the pesticide liability protection.
Yes.
And takes action directly. Where do we go to get started with this?
So I regularly post calls to action for the various things around the pesticide issue. So I'm Glyphosate Girl online on both Twitter and especially Instagram. Another place that's really good if you want to know what the legislative things that are going on is MAHA Action has a legislative tracker. So it's all the kinds of things that likely you guys care about. So for example, even recently, this was outrageous. There was a bill that was going to allow for telecom companies to place a 5G tower wherever they want, even on your property. And so that legitimately was a bill, and we were able to stop it with a lot of phone calls. It's a very targeted list of things that we all care about with environmental exposures. So that is also a great place to go. And if you wanted to know just about glyphosate, specifically my website, Glyphosate Facts, FACTS, you can go and just learn basically glyphosate 101.
Yeah, that's great to know because people get stuck with the gluten. It's the gluten. It's the gluten. No, it's not the gluten, folks. It's the glyphosate. We just have to look at Europe. We just have to look at other, even third world countries. They don't have these issues. They don't because they don't have the glyphosate. They don't allow it. And the fact, the only one thing that I didn't like about RFK Jr., I think he got set up there with Joe Rogan, I believe, and he was saying, if we stop glyphosate, then our food system would collapse. I was like, don't say that because we have so much proof around the world that it does not collapse. We don't need that. So I get it. I mean, I'm getting it. It's a hard position to be in.
It's just terrible. I don't know how he does it. I actually don't know.
Yeah. I think he'll feel like there's a monkey off his back when he goes back to fighting.
Yeah, totally.
His term, right?
Yeah.
And he'll be more free to fight. That's what I think is going to happen. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so I'm going to do something called the rapid fire round where I ask questions and you just, right off your head, just shoot whatever you know thinking. Well, you could think, but they're rapid fire ones.
Okay.
So here's the first one. Most toxic everyday product people still ignore.
I mean, I would say glyphosate.
I know. Roundup, right?
Roundup, Roundup, and the new landscaping version of it that's 40 times more toxic than the glyphosate version. I mean, those landscaping chemicals. Oh my goodness, terrible.
Crazy. Now, one food every family should prioritize buying organic.
Definitely berries. Definitely berries. Berries are the most covered with pesticides. We just talked about Driscoll's. I mean, if you absolutely are adamant about buying berry out of season, then definitely buy organic.
Absolutely. Most misleading phrase used by industrial agriculture. Yeah, there you go. Oh my gosh, I know.
That's what they
That's
say.
the
You need
culture, right?
chemicals to feed the world, and we need this to feed the world. And you hear it, and I'm just looking around. I'm like, why are we talking about feeding the world? Look at our country. Let's focus on feeding our country.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, they need our taxes to do that, right? That's probably why.
That's right.
Most hopeful sign you're seeing right now.
As I said before, never, ever, ever have I seen the national conversation about pesticides be this common.
Okay.
It is hitting NPR, it's hitting New York Times, it's hitting Bloomberg. It is everywhere. Suddenly, pesticides are being talked about. So I am so excited about that.
I mean, and you would know because we would assume, general public would just assume that it's been something that's been talked about for a long time. But no, as you
No.
as you know, it's new.
Like we
Can't
get
believe it.
one phrase in something mainstream every 2 years and be like, "Yay, that's a win!" Now they're whole
Yeah.
articles.
So, what's one action every listener can take this week? Because this is urgent.
This week they can, as I say, go to the MAHA Action legislative tracker. Just make yourself aware of what these issues are that are coming down the line. Also, actually, I have another place to go. Go to stoppoison.org and go there
Okay.
and sign up. And stoppoison.org, that goes to me actually. And then I will have your contact information and I can send you emails when there is a specific call to action to make.
Okay, and I'll make sure I write that down in the comments so that we all have that access right away. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you think future generations will look back at glyphosate and look at it the same way as cigarettes or asbestos?
100% they're going to, and especially because we don't even know the full gamut of the implications on genetics going forward, because some of the studies look really terrifying where the grandchildren of the mom that was exposed to glyphosate, they are showing a lot of neurological harm. So hopefully that isn't the case, the Roundup babies they're called, but they definitely will look back and think, what stupid people. It's like when lead used to be used in makeup.
Yeah. It's like, how could you not know about this, right? They're probably going to be like, I remember the politicians would say it was safe. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's super soon.
Yeah.
With these Gen Zs and is it Gen A? The next one? Gen
Yeah.
Z, Gen A, I believe.
And they start over.
Hopefully. Okay, so legendary machine, a time machine question I ask. If you were to go back, let's say you're 18-year-old self, you run into your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give her if you had a couple minutes with her?
Oh, I would say to become really good at public speaking early on because all of us need to find our voice. I was terrified of public speaking and was great at writing but very scared to use my voice. And then finally I got so fed up about 10 years ago when, I was recovering from illness. I said, I'm going to get over this. And I went and found an instructor and we worked and I started getting in front of larger and larger audiences and was able to overcome that. And I think the more particularly women seem to have a lot of struggles with finding their voice and being willing to use it. And now is the time in history that we really have to. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, great response. That's a great answer because, like you said, and you had training.
I finally was
There
like,
is
I'm
training
done.
out there that could help us. That's great. Okay, so one thing, let's see. Let's look at one more question I want to ask you. If you could go back 30 years and stop one decision that shaped modern industrial agriculture, what would that be and why?
It would definitely be to not allow the patenting of seeds, the genetically modified seeds. That was a horrific thing that now a company can own a seed, and it changed everything from that point forward.
Yes, because who would think, right? You can't patent natural or, seeds, and you can't patent, herbs, stuff like that. We all were comfortable with that. And yet they came up with genetically modified seeds where they now call them lab, I guess, synthetic stuff. You can. It caught us by surprise.
It did. It just sort of quietly happened, and then everyone said, "Oh, wait, now farmers can't save their seeds anymore." And now, if that patent or if that trait ends up on your farm and you didn't buy it, then you can be sued and put out of business. I mean, the whole thing's a nightmare.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And watching those documentaries, like the
Yeah.
one before that, Common Ground. There was another one before that.
Kiss the Ground, probably.
Kiss the Ground was the first one.
Yeah.
And the sequel was yeah. You see the farmers just suicide rates,
Through the
super
roof.
high. So
Horrible.
sad. Well, one thing with this conversation is letting people know that, for me at least, health sovereignty cannot stay passive. We have to take action, whether change happens through, like with you, with legislation, the lawsuits. We have to come down hard with them, the grassroots organizing. Let's see, regenerative farming. And again, when I say community education, from town hall meetings, small communities coming together, growing local foods, supporting local farmers markets more, because it's the same price. I went to Sprouts recently. I went to farmers market, same price. So might as well give the local, produce person my money. Here, have my money. Talk to me about your produce. How do you grow it? At least we have a communication there with the real growers. So, we cannot continue to outsource our responsibilities to these big companies. We already know, yes, there's a lot of people that still need to wake up. That's what we're going to keep pushing. I'm really happy that you're here helping us all do this with the team. Keep going, whether the movement becomes MAHA or something else, you're still going to be around, right?
Still going to be around. I'm going nowhere. It just is going to keep on morphing until we get rid of this problem.
Yeah, because you were here already before
I was
even
here
the MAHA.
already. Before I wasn't
Yeah.
even political really at all. Just
I know.
disgruntled.
Here we go. It's like I'm in health and wellness, right? And yet politics jumps into my lane. I'm
Right?
not
Isn't that
asking
funny?
And then people are like, Art, since when are you political now? I'm not. It just jumped into my lane. It's they're destroying our health. What are you talking about? They got into our lane, which is our freedom, our independence, our health and wellness.
Yeah, that's what happened. So now we're showing up, right?
Yep, exactly. So we're going to do it. Now, Kelly, where can people follow your work? We know Instagram, obviously, but give us a website where we can start following you and obviously supporting that,
Yeah.
what you're building.
So I have two websites. So Glyphosate Facts, as I mentioned earlier, FACTS is my website where I have a lot of information and research on glyphosate. And the other place you can find me is AmericanRegeneration.org. And that's my organization that I co-founded with Ryland Engelhart, who was the previous founder of Kiss the Ground, the organization. We are very excited. We're hosting events. We just hosted one at Sovereignty Ranch in Texas 2 weeks ago. And we're bringing all of these people together. And so we're really excited about that. We're trying to influence this administration as well to put more money behind regenerative agriculture, which may still happen actually. And so that would be a good one to follow as well.
Okay, great. Good. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad that you're being honest with everything that you're doing. We see your integrity. No one's going to buy you.
No one's going to.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful thing to see. So I'm right behind you guys, supporting you all the way, and we'll do whatever we can over here on our side. Continue to push through, and maybe have you back on after, hopefully, we, the Supreme Court does not fail us. See what happens. So to everyone listening, my show's called Age with Intention, but aging with intention means staying aware to me. Okay, so it's not just looking at biohacks, looking to see how you can reverse aging, but staying aware, because it means asking better questions so that we could stay healthy, right? And
100%.
it means protecting your body, your environment, your family, and the future of this country. Your health is not just something you're building overnight. It's building through awareness, habits, the culture, the community, coming together at a national level with everyone else so that we could all be safe and healthy. So I will have Kelly leave us with one of her beautiful sayings there. Go ahead. What can they do?
Actually, it doesn't even have to do with pesticides. This is a last word because it was a game changer for me when I was so sick. And that is, and it's probably something you talk about, be sure you're taking magnesium. Magnesium is no longer in our food supply because the soil is stripped, and it's so vital for everything that we're doing and just existing on this planet. We need magnesium. So my final word is supplement that magnesium.
Very, very good, because the soil
doesn't have any of it in it anymore, so you're not getting it.
We don't have it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you, Kelly. We'll see you again.
Thanks.
Thank you.